Hello everyone, my name is Jay and I'm an English language teacher, but I'm not a typical English language teacher because I have never actually seen my students unless they approach me on the street and they've seen me and they know me, which is strange. So why is that? That's because I've managed to, or through my company, have managed to leverage digital technologies to teach English, and we've now reached literally millions and millions of students and helped to improve their English skills, which is great. But I've got something to admit to you, and that is that while I am a popular English language teacher, I'm actually a failed language learner. I've actually studied a number of different languages, including Kannada, the local language here, and I've been unsuccessful in getting past basically beginner or lower intermediate stage. And I'm not alone in this. Almost everybody fails to learn a second language, and if they do, it's very difficult to get up to a proficient level and almost impossible to get up to that sort of IELTS 8 or top of the pyramid type of level of proficiency. Why is that? Language is incredibly complex, and what I want to do is just talk to you about the complexity for a little bit, and then I want to talk to you about how we might best learn languages in the future. So language basically has three ingredients. It has words, it has rules, and it has sounds. So words are vocabulary, the rules are grammar, and the sounds, of course, are pronunciation. Let's drill down on these because they're infinitely complex. Let's think about words for a second if you're learning another language, or specifically English. So a native English speaker knows between 20 and 40,000 words. 40,000 words if you're university educated. And that's a lot of data, really. 20,000 to 40,000 units of meaning that you have to learn in order to become proficient or fluent or accurate or complex in another language. It's almost like an impossible task to memorize that. And if we think about the rules, because the words and the rules are inseparable, in fact, there are about 400, 500 possible rules with English. Let's just focus on one for a second, and I'll talk to you about the complexity of just a single rule, and that is a verb. Let's talk about verb tenses in English because they're complicated. Let's focus on one word or one verb, the verb eat. And let's think about it if you put it in its past tense and it's ate, or its future tense, which is will eat, or its continuous tense, which is eating, or was eating, or will be eating, or has eaten, or has been eaten, or etc. And in English, there are 16 verb tenses, 16 transformations that the verb can make. But it's more than that, because you can also have negative forms in English where you add the not. So it's actually 16 times 2, which is 32 transformations. So you have will not eat, did not eat, has not eaten, etc. But in addition to that, you also have question forms as well. So did you eat, will you eat, are you eating, etc. So there's 16 times 3, which is 48 transformations. But then you have question negative forms in addition to that, like did you not eat breakfast, for example. So then you've got, in fact, 16 times 4, and this is testing my maths skills, which is 64 transformations. Then you have the passive form. So each of those transformations has an active and passive form. So in fact, you've got 128 transformations of a single word, eat. And in English, there are thousands of verbs. Luckily, they all conform to the same rules, more or less. So that's helpful. But still, the point of what I'm trying to say is you're trying to do something when you learn another language which is unbelievably difficult. Then there's pronunciation. And in Kannada, the local language here, English has 10 more vowel sounds, and it has 6 more consonant sounds. So these are sounds that you don't have in your language. You have sounds in your language that we don't have in English. And this is actually a physiological thing, not a cognitive thing, or actually it's both. But this gives you some idea of the complexity of language. Now, what do current language schools do when you learn a language? Well, typically there'll be a teacher, one teacher standing at the front of the class, teaching a broadcast lesson to 25 to 30 to 50 students, and it's ineffective, and it's always been ineffective. And I actually quit my job as an English language teacher, a classroom teacher, because deep down I knew that it was absolutely futile to teach somebody a language like this. And it's the reason why it takes between 6 to 8 years to become proficient in another language. there has to be a better way to learn second languages. And there is. And it's going to be technology enabled. It's not going to be technology driven. It's not going to be virtual reality or AI. We don't need that, actually. I think the technology that we have now is actually sufficient, because the problem we're dealing with here is not a technological issue. It's a linguistic issue. It's a pedagogical issue. It's an issue of organizing or breaking down and teaching in the right way, the right content at the right time for the right learner. So let's imagine what a future language school might look like. Imagine you come into class and there's a computer booth there and all of your peers are sitting around and you're getting personalized learning from the computer. And it knows precisely how much vocabulary you have, it knows precisely what your grammatical issues are, it knows precisely what sort of pronunciation issues you're making, like the one I just made then. And it feeds you lessons that you need. This is all based off pretty simple diagnostic testing, by the way, and little algorithms that spit out the right lesson at the right time. So I want to leave you with a little thing to think about, and that is, imagine if we could actually increase the rate at which people learn their second languages. Imagine if we could make it, I think, 10 times faster, an order of magnitude faster, which I think is possible. Imagine how much time we could spend on other things, studying medicine, studying law, studying economics, studying education itself, instead of laboring away at the seemingly impossible task of learning another language. And I'll just leave you with this. We're trying to do this actually through my company, E2Language and E2School. So check those websites out.